When it comes down to it, we're normal gearheads just like all of you. Now in the shop today, we're going to be assembling an engine that you've either heard or seen a lot about. Plus, we're taking old gray hair white knuckle out to the track. Now the premise for this build is geared towards a working man's budget who wants to build a stout, reliable power plant for his hot rod, mud truck, or even grassroots weekend racer. Now this build will not break the bank, but it will get you a high horsepower bullet with a great horsepower per dollar figure.
The 6-liter LS truck short block, known as the LQ4, has proven itself time and time again. That's with all types of power adders or in high compression, naturally aspirated form. These short blocks can be purchased as takeouts for a little less than $1,000 with plenty of life left in them. Or you can find them reman or in basically new form for a little under $2,000. But either way you go, you have a great platform for reliability and impressive power.
The recipe for that impressive power statement Pat mentioned is fairly easy to come up with. We have a stout bottom end from the factory that is ready for a killer induction package, and it'll all feed the dyno in a little bit. Trick Flow Specialties Gen X 255 cylinder heads are the main course. They have a heart-shaped combustion chamber that measures in at 69 cc's. The intake valve is 2/165 and the exhaust valve is 1'600". Now they're CNC machined and flow an impressive 363 CFM at 600 thousandths lift. Now we're ready to get to work, so the rest of these parts will be discussed as they go on.
This 6-liter has a 4-inch bore and a 3/622 stroke, which comes out to 364 cubic inches. Now in factory trim, they were rated at 300 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque.
We're using that reman short block so we don't have to touch the rotating assembly. Now we're going to start off with the camshaft, which is the brain of the engine, and it affects several different things. Now it precisely controls when the valves open and close, which directly influences how much power is made and at what RPM. This is a Trick Flow hydraulic roller with a 3,000 to 7,000 RPM range. Duration at 50 thousandths is 230 on the intake and 238 on the exhaust. Lobe separation is 113 degrees. Now valve lift with a 1:7 ratio rocker is 625 on both the intake and exhaust side. Now the cam retaining plate can be put in place, along with this Trick Flow adapter plate for a chain dampener. The timing chain is also from Trick Flow and has 9 keyway positions to help dial in the cam exactly where you want it. Now the dampener is installed, and we put the timing 2 degrees advanced.
We'll check it to see where the intake center line is located. 152 equals divided by 2. The cam comes in at 109 degrees of intake center line, which is 4 degrees advanced. We put the crank sprocket at 2 degrees advanced, but it ended up being 4 just because of stack tolerance. And we want the cam advanced because it's a street engine and we want to make the power down low.
Now the oil pump hub is slid on. Since the timing chain is a thicker double row, these spacers are used to position the pump accordingly. With the shims in for proper alignment, the pump is torqued into place. We painted the timing cover with VHT Wrinkle Plus for a cool look. Now the stock windage tray is laid in place, and the oil pickup is positioned and tightened down. To cap off the bottom end, the pan is seated on the gasket and snugged down as well. After this break, the Trick top end goes together.
We're back and ready to stick the top end on our working man's bullet. And when we get it all wrapped up, we're going to share with you the dollar amount and the horsepower per dollar after we find out how much it cranks out on the engine dyno. And the last thing we're going to put in our short block are these new Chevy Performance hydraulic roller lifters. We spec'd these 40 thousandths thick Cometic MLS head gaskets, so our compression ratio is a calculated 10.13 to 1 with all the parts we're using. These Gen X 255s are known for making great power. Trick Flow did a ton of development work on the ports so you don't have to touch them. ARP head bolts secure them down and are torqued to 75 pound-feet. Now the push rods can drop in. These are Trick Flow pieces that measure 7/750 and have an 80 thousandths wall thickness. To improve the strength and durability of the factory rocker arm, we're going to change out the trunnions with an upgraded trunnion kit, which also allows for more rocker travel. The fixture is used to press the original bearings out of the rocker body. This frees up the trunnion as well. Now place the new trunnion and bearings in place with the bearings oriented correctly. Press them in using the flat washers. Now install the C-clips and it's a done deal.
These heads use a TFS rocker stand specific to this head. Now they require an offset intake rocker and the exhaust rockers are in line. Supplied fasteners will secure them. They're both a factory 1.7 ratio. We also painted the valve covers with VHT's Wrinkle Plus. It's an easy and very affordable way to dress up an engine. Same goes for the factory valley cover. With coatings on performance parts as popular as ever, here's a look at how we use VHT's Wrinkle Plus. It's an easy way to improve the appearance on an engine or any car part. We heat the part evenly with a heat gun until it's fairly hot to the touch. Then spray on a few coats. Now this stuff has been tested to withstand temps to 350 degrees. Once the spraying is complete, use the heat gun to cure the product. This takes a couple of minutes. As the temperature rises, you'll see it cure right before your eyes. It's a simple and very affordable way to get a distinctive custom finish.
This is Holley's mid-rise LS3 carbureted manifold. It has an operating range from 2,500 to 7,000 RPM and a 4150 square bore flange, plus an optimized runner layout and consistent cross-sectional area. MSD coil brackets go on next, along with matching MSD coils. These provide 3 times the current of factory coils, which helps improve the combustion process of the fuel mixture. They provide multiple sparks at idle RPM and improved high RPM operation. On the front of this engine, this Summit Racing SFI balancer is going on. It is double ribbed for normal accessories and the AC belt. A Mazir electric water pump will keep this working man's bullet cool on the dyno.
Up top, our trusty Quick Fuel Technologies Black Diamond 950 CFM 4-barrel carburetor will feed it 93 octane pump gas. When we come back, this classy looking working man's bullet will be mated to the dyno and ready for completion. We're in the dyno room and really close to making some noise, but first we want to show you a few changes we made in here. Now to give Pat and I a little more room to work in, we went ahead and removed that big blue toolbox that was against this wall and put it just outside the door. Now that gave us the space to hang this awesome Pit Pal aluminum work table that we got from Summit Racing. Now this thing can be used in the race trailer, garage, or even a shed. The cool thing about it, it folds flat down against the wall for more space savings when not in use.
Summit also offers these Pit Pal wall organizers, and these are perfect for hanging inside your enclosed trailer door or even right on the wall, and they are perfect for keeping your fluids and your parts in order. And another cool thing about them is they have a fold-down tool tray and even a paper towel holder.
For headers, we're using a set of hookers with 1 7/8" primaries. These are a mid-length design with a 3-inch collector. To run a carburetor on an LS engine, an ignition controller is a must. This is MSD's 6LS box that plugs into the crank, cam, and coil pack connectors. A ground and switch 12-volt ignition hookup is all it needs to be wired up. They supply chips with different timing curves, or you can use the supplied software and a laptop to build your own, which is what we're doing. The software is easy to use. We're programming 15 degrees of timing during cranking, and at 800 RPM we will put another dot at 26 degrees and carry that out to 7,000 RPM. This is basically like locking out a distributor. Now send the table to the MSD box and it's done. All right, the working man's bullet is all hooked up and ready to run on the dyno. Now the components we use made for a super simple installation, and heck, we expect some pretty decent power out of this thing.
Now we're going to get it fired up and let it run to break in for about 15 minutes to make sure everything is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then on to some power pulls. This engine fired up immediately with 0 issues. After a quick check for leaks, we increased the RPM and ran the engine with slight load for 15 minutes, monitoring the oil pressure and the water temp along the way.
All right, this first pull, just to make sure everything's cool, 25 to 5 at 450.
I like it. Few things run as smooth as a well-built LS. All right, that is not too bad. Well, everything's fine. We haven't found any peaks yet, but 455 at 5,000 and 478 pound-feet of torque. Everything's going up, everything's looking good. So
Going up in big intervals too. So we'll increase the sweep and go from 3,500 to 6,500 RPM. Ooh, nice and smooth.
that's some good power right there.
Oh, man. Whoa. 540 horse, 483 pound-feet. This thing has not found peak yet at 65. Torque did peak at 5,200.
That is incredible. That thing is called, in the engine builder's world, running on cylinder head.
That is awesome.
That is cool.
Since peak power was not reached, another step in the sweep. This time, 4,000 to 7,000 RPM.
Sweet. Look, watch this number. 548, 481 for torque. Still, that's I mean, torque's down just a tad bit, but again, for consistency-wise, that's super close. But we made peak power at
6,700.
67.
Wow.
That's very, very impressive for
Stock bottom end 6-liter.
man. That's true testament to how good parts are nowadays. You'd kill yourself trying to do this 15, 20 years ago. So
10.13 to 1 on compression. We're running 89 octane.
wow, 89 octane, not even premium,
Right.
not even 93. All right, since we're carb guys and we got a carb on it, let's do a spacer on it.
I'm in.
We'll drop a 1-inch spacer on to see how it affects our power curve, but not until after the break. Stay with us.
We knew you'd hang around for this. And Pat has a theory.
It's going to do one of 3 things. It's going to make more power, less power, or it'll stay the same. I guarantee it'll do one of those 3.
All right, here we go.
The spacer increases plenum volume and helps the air make a smoother transition into the intake runner. Oh, I don't know.
Let's see what she cranked.
Heck, there you go.
There it is.
553.
Not bad.
Not bad. 487 pound-feet of torque.
These 2 graphs show the runs before and after the 1-inch spacer. It was worth 10 horsepower.
Definite improvement.
Picked up on both sides.
Yep, definite improvement. Let's see what the fuel looks like. The fuel was affected a little bit as far as its air-fuel ratio, but it put it in a nice range. It's got great oil pressure. Boy, how's that for a bolt-together engine?
Man, I'll tell you what, this was the working man's bullet. And right now it's making 1.49 horsepower per cube on a bone stock bottom end at a little over 10 to 1.
This working man's bullet surprised us a little bit on how much power it made with the parts that were in it. Now, it has a great power band, and keep in mind it ran on 89 octane pump gas. The parts added up to a little over $6,200 without the short block. Now that works out to around $11 per horsepower, which is pretty respectable. Now you can start out with a reman short block like we've done, or go a little bit cheaper and get yourself a good running takeout and do the math from there. Now, some of you are going to be saying you can make way more power for way cheaper by taking a junkyard engine and just pouring the nitrous or turbo to it. But let me tell you, you're living on borrowed time. This engine will be dead reliable and give you trouble-free horsepower for years to come. Remember that tugboat of a Caprice we modified? Well, we have a final update for you, but first, here's how it started.
Last year, we started a project called Gray Hair White Knuckle, just to see how much performance we could get from this 4,000-pound behemoth. Lightening it up was not our goal. We replaced the stock rear end, starting with Yukon gear and axle parts, all loaded in a bulletproof 8.5 10-bolt rear end. Stuffed in an 816 horsepower LSA we built. We home free, baby. And a 6-speed automatic transmission. and we fired it up. And with a performance shifter, plus a unique wheel and tire combo, this boat rolled out on its own power, but still had some loose ends to address. Until today, it's off for the maiden voyage to the National Corvette Museum's road course. Great weather, great track, great co-pilot.
Oh, I like that.
I jumped behind the wheel first. Pat let me have the honors for some unknown reason. Right away, you can feel the weight of this car and the immense amount of torque and power this engine has to handle it. It has amazing acceleration and pulls this Caprice around the turns at a very surprising speed. When not in control in the driver's seat, sometimes co-pilots can develop motion sickness. And the driver tends to exploit that for a little more seat time. That gave me some extra time to put the car through its paces and get as much feedback from it as I could. You quickly learn its personality. Keeping traction is a delicate balance because of the car's power to weight ratio. Yet, the steering is easy and very predictable. Carrying the speed through the corners makes you feel like you're in a G machine. The racing seats are really paying off. Simply put, old gray hair white knuckle has a big presence with big power and is a blast to drive. We need to figure out what we're going to do with it. Maybe reuse some of its parts for another project, or maybe sell it. But for right now, we're going to sit on it.
Engine assembly is a time-consuming task that takes knowledge, patience, and a good understanding of basic mechanics. Now, to ensure your engine lasts as long as it's supposed to and performs up to its full potential, you'll need a few specialty tools to go along with your basics so you're able to assemble an engine as accurately as any machine shop. We're going to cover the specialty tools as they would be used in the assembly order, like measurement, torquing, ring file and piston assembly, valve train setup, plus the cleaners and lubes we like to use. To really assemble an engine correctly, you need to get a set of micrometers. Now, they will be your biggest expense, but if you take care of them, they will last you a lifetime. You'll use them mostly to measure the outer diameters of crankshafts or camshaft journals. They are also used to set up a dial bore gauge to measure inside diameters, like main bearing housings, the cam tunnel, and the big end of connecting rods. A quality torque wrench is also essential, and it's a good idea to have both a 3/8 and a 1/2-inch drive on hand to cover the lows and highs of your torque ranges. These are Matco click type, and if not abused, will also last a very long time. When building an engine, the clearance ranges depend on the purpose of the engine and how much power it will produce. For instance, the rings are gapped differently depending on whether the engine is naturally aspirated, blown, or a nitrous user. A ring filer and a set of feeler gauges is a must to achieve proper gap. The filers are available in a manual style like this one, or you can even get them in electric. They range in price from around $40 to well over $700. The proper way to install a piston in the bore after the rings are filed and on them is with a ring compressor, and there are several different styles depending on your budget. The first being this universal band style that uses a square key that tightens around the piston to compress the ring pack. Next in line is a band style that covers specific bore ranges and are tightened down with a pair of specialty pliers. Finally, there are tapered compressors, and these are tapered sleeves that gently compress the rings as the piston passes through them, and they are available in an adjustable one like this one, or are built for your specific bore size. Knowing the position of the cam's intake center line is critical in any build. Degreeing tools include a degree wheel, a deck bridge with dial indicator, piston stop, and a lobe lift tool that fits inside a lifter bore. And last but not least, cleaners and lubes. We have lacquer thinner for cleaning parts, extreme pressure lube for high wear surface areas, ARP Ultra Torque to keep our torque values consistent, and a can of oil for all other wear surfaces. And now you know.